I have had so many young women, like under the age of 25, they have messaged me very similar things where like they've had amenorrhea, they've maybe had low progesterone, low estrogen, and the doctor wants to put them on like full HRT under 25 years old.
Yeah.
And I just am like, there are so many other options that you can exercise before you revert to that. Now, HRT, my opinion, I think can be great for women that are in their like mid 30s and above, depending on their symptoms. Like if you feel great, you have a normal period, then you don't need HRT. But if you're having difficulty and maybe you've exercised like the natural options, that's when I think HRT would be a good fit, like 35 plus. What are your thoughts, Kate, on like that case study, if you will?
I believe that there's since it's such a young age that
Yeah.
there's more options that we could go through and more options we could explore before going straight to that because doctors are is not this is not for every doctor, but most doctors are going to be like, "Okay, you're having this problem. This is what you're going to go to." Like it's
Yeah.
they're very one tracked. What's the word I'm looking for?
Yeah,
Just very,
like they're narrow-minded in some ways with their
yeah,
practice. Like they want to prescribe something and like kind of move on.
exactly. They want a quick fix in a way. Like, okay, this is your problem, this is what you're going to do. But there's so many other ways that we could fix this problem going outside of HRT, going outside of these normal medicines and taking more of a holistic approach.
What was your favorite part of the ZB concert?
When it started raining,
I know, right?
I was like, I didn't have a care in the world at that point. I was just living life and it was amazing. And the fact that it started raining at like the perfect song, I couldn't tell you what song it was, but I knew in that moment it was the perfect song for it to start raining.
Yeah. No, I feel like so true. It made it so much better with the pouring rain. It just added like a layer of ambiance. It was
Yeah.
just it was nice. I think it was so funny. I saw your post yesterday and you were like, "Oh, did I like ball at Pink Skies?" Of course I balled. So I made my Instagram post like what a few hours before. I almost made my caption the same exact thing, Kate. I meant to text you
No.
and I almost wrote, "Did I cry at Pink Skies?" Yes, of course. And I was like, "Oh my God, we're on the same wavelength," like literal telepathy. I was like, that
I
is,
couldn't stop after the song. I like couldn't stop crying. And then he played a love song after, and I'm like, oh my God.
I
The tears are just
know.
flowing.
I know. Yeah, that song, that was like a spiritual moment between the whole entire stadium and his band. That was cool.
I think everyone felt kind of like a sense of like, we're here, we're living in the moment, and it was just great.
Yeah, no, it was so fun. The tailgate was fun. We had a
Like
lot
it was
of Africa.
hot at the tailgate.
Yeah, it was. It was
I was a sweaty Betty at the tailgate, but
Sweaty Betty. Um, when me and Gianna went to the porta potties,
yeah.
that girl, she came over to Gianna, was like, "I love your shirt." And then she was like saying stuff about competing. And then we started talking about coaching. And that was like so funny. Never got a text from her. I didn't
Oh,
expect a text
really?
from her, but we did exchange numbers at the porta potty. And she was like, "I'm gonna hit you up. I want to do wellness. I'm gonna do XYZ." I was like,
You want to
"Oh,
hear something so funny?
yeah.
So me and Lynn went to the nines yesterday,
Oh,
and
nice."
I see my old math teachers. They're all hanging out.
Stop. Was it like last week school? Maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, they said school's down, but like I obviously used to work at the nine, so
Yeah,
I saw them constantly. They'd always come
I
there.
see.
So I go over because her name's Brenda. She was like, Kate, Kate, and I like came over, said hi, blah blah blah. So I said like I'm a coach now, blah blah blah. She's like, oh, can you give me your number? Can you give
Stop.
me? Yeah. She's like, I was like, it's mostly like social media based, like all these things. She was like, I was like, do you have an Instagram? She was like, yeah, just add me. And I was like, oh my God. Oh my
Wait,
God.
was
Am
that
I going to
your,
coach my math teacher? Oh
I
my
was
God.
gonna say, was that your literal math teacher, like the one that
Yes.
you had with in class? Oh,
Yep.
that is
And
so,
then the one that I had senior year was right next door and they're best friends.
look at that. See, we just have to get out into the world more often. Leads will just come, like it'll just come to us. It's great.
I
No,
love
it's so
it.
funny.
It was so funny. And then I walked back. I was like, I told Lynn, she was like, no way. I was like, I swear to God.
I love it. I feel like your math teacher might really sign up with you because I don't think she would just be like, "Oh, I'm interested," and then like dip out. Like she probably really.
She was like,
It's
I need
funny.
a lot of help. I was like, I love you so much. I just the fact that she like Oh, I just love her so much.
That is so cute and so wholesome. I love that. So yeah, guys, we went to Zach Bryan on Wednesday. We had a good old time. We had a few margaritas. We had a lousy pizza. We had these
We had a
mid,
very lousy pizza.
oh mid, so mid. And these like they were okay nachos. They were okay, but yeah, the food at Gillette
I
was
needed something to eat. I needed anything.
no, I feel it. But so that was fun. We took yesterday to kind of recover. I wasn't feeling the greatest yesterday. I had like made it through the day, but
I got home. It wasn't bad traffic, but I was like, I need to go to Bagel World. I need that right now. And I got like a turkey sandwich from Bagel World, and it was like, oh, this revived me.
that was your revival. That was your
Oh,
ultimate
that was
revival.
my revival. Speaking of revival, what was your favorite song?
Dude, I feel like Pink Skies was probably my favorite
Mm,
because I really love that song. But I also love the overtime. And that was like the opener for the show. That was fun. I
yeah,
liked them all. They all sound like this sounds maybe stupid, but his live music sounds exactly, if not better, than what his recordings are, which like
yeah,
I kind of figured would be very good in person, but like he is so good. He is
very good.
so good. What was your favorite?
My favorite song is Dawn. So like when he played that, I lost my voice singing that.
Yeah.
And I was jumping and I was yelling to the girls next to us, and I'm like, oh, I need someone to like interact with me right now. And I
No.
just, oh, it was just such a good moment. And then Pink Skies, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
I like Summertime's Over or Summertime Close. Summertime's Close. That
mm.
song is really good. I love that one. But I could have stayed there all night. It was such a good
I
concert.
wish he like didn't end, like I wish it ended at like 12 or something like, oh,
I know. I was like, oh, it should like I think Taylor Swift does like 3.5 or 4 hours. I'm like, that's what he needs to do now.
yeah,
You need to do that too.
right.
Oh, I love it. Very cool. So we're going to Ossipee next week. We're
Well,
leaving for our vacay that we talk about pretty often. We refer to Ossipee on a pretty regular basis.
Osby is definitely my favorite vacation, and it's not even like with my family. Like it's with my family.
Hmm.
Ties, our second family. We
Yeah.
should.
Yeah. No. How long have you been going to Ossipee now?
This is my eighth year.
8th year.
8 years, yeah.
I think.
Yeah, because the first year I went, I that was like me and Ty. Thank you, Nancy. Thank you to my parents for letting me go on vacation within a month of me dating this boy. So that first year,
That's
what
funny.
I only went for like 2 or 3 days.
I remember when you first went too, because I remember them being like, Ty has a girlfriend and he's bringing her to Ossipee. And I was like, oh, how cute. Because you guys were like younger at the time. And I was like, that's
And you were
adorable.
like the first girlfriend to be able to go, and like then you're
I'm
like,
so
oh, like
happy now. I'm so
my
excited.
girlfriend can go now.
I'm like, finally a girl, like another girl with me.
Look
Because
at
it's
us.
always and then Nancy. So like it was nice. But yeah, I think I've been going 11 years now, which is crazy.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. Like that it's our vacation. Like it's our I look forward to it every single year. It's like
Yeah.
the most consistent thing I've ever had. Like the most consistent vacation I've ever had.
Oh yeah. I don't take anything else aside from Ossipee. I
Yeah.
hope to maybe change that one day and do 2 vacations, at some point.
Mm.
But yeah, Ospreay's super cute, super fun, up in the White Mountains for those like aren't familiar with like where this is. So it's like you're in the middle of the lake, your cell service is terrible, and it's the best thing ever that way. And we totally,
You get the most scenic views I have ever seen in my life.
yeah, like a postcard, like a literal living postcard.
Me and
So
Ty, do you know where it says scenic route? Like it says scenic view.
yes, I've always wanted to go over there and have breakfast. And me and John say every year we're gonna do it, and then we never do.
Yeah. So every single time we pass it, not even like even if we're driving to like anywhere we're going out to eat, I'm like, wow, that's scenic. Every
That's
single
it.
I do not miss a beat every single time I do it.
I love that. No,
It's
it is. It's so pretty. And like the sunsets up there are just like, oh, so beautiful.
just amazing.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. So it'll be fun. We'll see. I wonder if they're gonna do jet skis again this year.
Definitely.
Yeah, hopefully John doesn't fling himself off this time. That's why I
That
don't want to go with him. He's too dangerous.
That was a meme. That was a legit I wish I took a video of it. I'm sure it was terrifying for you, like, once you were did you see him do it, or did I tell you?
No, you told me I was in like the room. I think I might have been making a drink in the room. And I think you were like, John fell off the jet ski. And I was like, oh no. All I can think of is his bad back. And I was like, oh, we're done for. Like he's gonna just cry about that the whole vacation now. But he was fine.
I'm telling you, this man flung himself off, and it was like a starfish in the air. It looked like it was going slow motion, and I'm dying laugh. Like I couldn't hold the laughter in. I was like, that just was so funny.
That's so
He
funny.
and then he was like this. He's like, I'm okay. I'm
I'm
okay.
good, don't worry. Like that's why I don't want to go on with you. And that's why I want to drive the boat and I want to go 20 miles an hour and that's it.
I'm
Like
trying to boat.
I want to drive the boat. I want to drive the boat. So yeah, that'll be fun.
I want to go to the big lake.
Me too. We say this every year. I wonder if we'll ever get there. Maybe
I
we'll have to swim. Maybe we'll have to snorkel to the big lake by ourselves.
honestly, we'll just ask like I'll ask Jim and be like, hey, what are your thoughts on this?
What?
What are your thoughts for us
Wait on
taking
this
it?
thing?
But I guess he gets it because he pays for it. But like,
Obviously, yeah.
that's can we take it for a night?
We
Like,
rent it from you for a day.
can we literally pay you to take it?
That's a reasonable ask, I think. No, I think he would totally let us. I think the boys just don't want to go because they're like, we want to stay at the beach and do nothing all day. So I think that's that. But we'll have to see. Pick it
Maybe
up.
me and you get our boating license. We'll just say, okay,
Free
we're
consensus.
certified. So
I have said this. I'm like, I don't know why I can't do it. If like all these like 16-year-old kiddos can go do it, why can't I? I'm like, I could probably figure it out. And I might not love doing it, but I could do it. So I don't know, maybe that'll be a project that I do over the next week. Get my boating license and be like, yeah, I'm renting a boat. I'm getting my own
I'm
boat.
renting a boat and I'm doing this.
Gosh, no. But are you doing anything for the fourth?
I don't think so. I think it's gonna rain here.
Is it kind of? I like haven't checked the weather too much.
No,
But
my parents, so my sister and my mom are doing, they're going to the Cayman Islands, which is nice.
oh, that's real nice. That's
Oh, I
real
guess
nice.
it's not gonna rain. It's gonna be 86.
Like 86, maybe some
Cloudy.
clouds. Yeah. That'll be
Um, yeah, so they're going, she's obviously my sister lives in New York, but my mom's traveling to New York. Then
okay.
the next day they're flying from New York to there. So my mom's gonna be gone from the 3rd to the 8th, and then I'm leaving the 6th. So I'm not gonna see my mom for like a week and a half. And people who know
Oh,
me, like, my mom is my best friend. I
I
don't know how I'm gonna do it.
I know you're gonna be homesick before you even get to Ospey, I think.
I know.
Oh no. We've been like talking. Well, here's maybe one way we can bypass that. We've been talking about potentially getting Copper from my mom's house for the day and bringing him up for a day trip. And I'm
Mm,
bringing my car, I think, this year. So John's gonna bring his, I'm gonna bring my car. And if you want to take a little visit to your madres, we could probably swing by. So
I know. Oh, that'd be so cute. He came up for the day.
I want
He's a
to
good copper. Is a very good boy.
He's great.
Um, you have to send me that picture that that you took of. So
Okay.
Copper was laying with me, and it was like the most calm I've ever seen him. Because obviously he's a puppy. He's got
Mhm.
puppy energy. But
Oh,
oh my goodness, it was like a picture perfect moment, and
yeah.
he was just laying right there. He was very calm, and I'm like, oh, this is what I love. This is just what I love.
They love it. Yeah, no, I have that pic. I was gonna actually, almost put that in my swipe for the ZB. I almost put
Oh
the
yeah.
was taken this way, but I was like, I'll keep it here, but I'll send it to you. So cute. Yeah, he's being a good boy. Yeah.
Ossipee is going to
So,
be really fun. I'm very excited for it. And I think we both need to have a vacation where it's at least me. I feel this way. Have a vacation where it's not going, go. I've been going, going, going.
I know. Yeah,
I
you
need
really
a vacation where I can like chill out.
chill. We just need to chill. Yeah, we'll probably do a pod up in Ossipee. I think we're
I
gonna have
love
Yeah, I think we'll be able to because we figured out the whole camera situation, which is nice. Now that I deleted off like so many of my old assignments from my computer, it was a storage thing. So now I know. But yeah, we'll definitely do a little pod up there. Maybe a little tipsy pod. Maybe we'll do a little, tipsy pod up there and we'll have some fun. But I wanted to, so we put up like a little Q&A box from both of our Instagrams, and we got a couple of good questions that we wanted to address. And I feel like it might be good for us to start with the period question. How do you feel about that, Kate?
Yeah, we can do that.
Cool. So we had somebody ask, I would love if you talk about ways to improve hormones aside from HRT. It's a 21-year-old female, and she has low female sex hormones. She lost her period, and she's scared to start HRT because of her age. So I'll just say this. I have had so many young women, like under the age of 25, they have messaged me very similar things where like they've had amenorrhea, they've maybe had low progesterone, low estrogen, and the doctor wants to put them on like full HRT under 25 years old.
Yeah.
And I just am like, there are so many other options that you can exercise before you revert to that. Now, HRT, my opinion, I think can be great for women that are in their like mid 30s and above, depending on their symptoms. Like if you feel great, you have a normal period, then you don't need HRT. But if you're having difficulty and maybe you've exercised like the natural options, that's when I think HRT would be a good fit, like 35 plus. What are your thoughts, Kate, on like that case study, if you will?
I believe that there's since it's such a young age that
Yeah.
there's more options that we could go through and more options we could explore before going straight to that because doctors are is not this is not for every doctor, but most doctors are going to be like, "Okay, you're having this problem. This is what you're going to go to." Like it's
Yeah.
they're very one tracked. What's the word I'm looking for?
Yeah,
Just very,
like they're narrow-minded in some ways with their
yeah,
practice. Like they want to prescribe something and like kind of move on.
exactly. They want a quick fix in a way. Like, okay, this is your problem, this is what you're going to do. But there's so many other ways that we could fix this problem going outside of HRT, going
Mm.
outside of these normal medicines and taking more of a holistic approach. But with the I saw the question, it was 21, low sex drive. It was she didn't want to start HRT. So progesterone, every woman on earth is most likely progesterone deficient,
Yeah.
not producing enough progesterone. And most times they're estrogen dominant. So when your estrogen is high, progesterone is going to be low. So
Hmm.
in order to fix that, you can take those progesterone drops dissolved with vitamin E, and then it's going to I just made a post on this. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
I just made you do the drops, and then that's going to counteract that. It's going to bring those up. It's going to alleviate all these symptoms,
Mm.
and it's gonna inevitably bring that sex drive up, and it's going to increase the glutamate, which turns into GABA, which is calming effect. So you're not going to be anxious. You're not going to really like those mood swings are going to dial down a little bit. All these things. So progesterone is definitely a big one that
Yeah.
I'm very interested in, and
Yes.
definitely would love to learn more about it. But it's no, I don't want to say it's a fix all drug because it's not, but it does alleviate a lot of symptoms with PMS. One,
Mhm. Absolutely.
two, it like the reproductive system needs it. So it's a very important thing that I think a lot of people should know more about because I definitely don't think enough people know about it.
No, I think a lot of women don't understand their own bodies in terms of like their hormonal profile
Mhm.
and kind of like the relationship between estrogen and progesterone. And I think a lot of women will go get lab work done and they come back within normal limits, within a normal range. And you could be within normal range, but even if your estrogen's normal, your progesterone's normal, if you do a certain calculation, you can actually figure out if you're estrogen dominant, even if you're technically within normal limit. And that's where a lot of women fall. And this is where I think functional medicine, in terms of like the lab work ranges, are much more efficient because they're much more narrow, whereas conventional medicine, it's so much wider, so there's so much room for error. And you could be technically normal but you might feel horrible, you might have all these symptoms. And I think that's where we are doing a disservice to a lot of our women, is where again, it's a women's health issue. And like people, there are still doctors that don't believe PMS is real, and it's like
Yeah,
crazy.
there's
So
So many.
Another thing I would like to know about this particular woman is, what does your nutrition look like? What does your exercise look like? What does your current stress level look like? Because I would like to know more about when you experienced the amenorrhea. When did you lose that cycle? What was your nutrition and your exercise and lifestyle behaviors looking like at that time? Because a lot of women that I speak with, they have a history of some sort of restriction. I know you do too. And
Mhm.
like that's kind of the main population that we work with. It's a lot of women that don't eat enough and they end up in a place where there's low nutrition availability. So that puts the body into a deficit, a very stressful state. And when your body's really stressed, that fight or flight begins to take place. Your body's releasing epinephrine and cortisol. Your progesterone, that female sex hormone, is quite literally, it goes through a conversion process and it's converted into cortisol. So it drives progesterone lower if you're not eating enough and if you're over exercising. So, in addition to some supplementation with some progesterone or something like chasteberry, which helps to promote ovulation, which can also address low progesterone, um, the nutrition and the exercise component is really important to also consider. So, when I am working with somebody with amenorrhea, I will make sure that they have plenty of fats in their diet. Reason being, your body needs enough fat in order to make hormones. It's a big role that it plays. It's not just an energy source. So, a lot of women, because a lot of women, they might have a history of dieting or wanting to control their weight. They may be on a low fat diet in addition to being low calorie. So, it's important that we get those fats up in order for the body to have that basically cholesterol to make hormones.
Right.
So, I think that's also another area, and I'm gonna actually message her and see if we can maybe help her a little bit. But I think that it's important to make sure you're eating enough. Usually, for most women to restore their menstrual cycle, you need at least 2,000 calories. So you need to be eating at minimum 2,000 calories. And some people hearing this might be like, "That's not a whole lot." Other people hearing this, that might be a lot to them. So there's a lot of fear I've learned from working with women when it comes to trying to go through what I call a health phase and eating enough food and kind of trusting that process of bringing down exercise and the intensity of exercise so you can restore that endogenous hormone production. But I love the
Another
idea
thing,
in the progesterone.
another thing I wanted to add is sleeping. You're sleep
Absolutely.
if you are stressed, you're not gonna be sleeping. It's all connected. Everything is
Yeah.
connected. So if
Yeah.
it's you're sleeping or you're not sleeping, you're messing up your sleep wake cycle. That's gonna make you stressed. Then the stress is going to affect your period, and it's all gonna start happening. And sleep is definitely a really big one because you want to reset that body. You want to have that sedative state where everything is kind of resetting in your body, and then you wake up and you feel refreshed. And understandably, it's hard for most people to like be able to get a good night's sleep. Like we all have those nights where you're like, oh, I cannot fall asleep, or I am just having a really shitty like night of sleeping.
Yeah.
But that's definitely a big factor that I think would plays into the menstrual cycle and reproductive system and all these things, which also is not talked about a lot. You don't really think like, oh, sleeping is going to affect my period. Like
Yeah.
it kind of it's all connected. That's what I'm trying to
It
say.
is. It is. And I've shared this before on a different podcast, but during grad school, like my MSDI, I
Mhm.
had like the worst digestion I ever had. And it wasn't as bad as I've seen some people, but like I would only go to this on TMI. I would basically only go to the bathroom number two on the weekend. Like I'm not kidding. Like I
Oh
was so,
God,
I
you
know.
sound like me when I was in high school.
It was bad.
Yeah.
And I was definitely lower on sleep. Like the most sleep I usually got was 5 to 6 hours because my schedule was just so demanding and I needed to be up so early for the internship, all that stuff. So I know for myself during that time frame, my cortisol was really high. I was definitely not sleeping enough. And that's when my period was like the most irregular it had ever been. And so I just want to echo that. Like the sleep is so important. And I've worked with people where I've put them on this like perfect protocol, but they don't sleep enough and they're not doing the stress management piece. It's not going to
Was
work.
at the window. Yeah.
It's not going to work. You're wasting your money on the supplements. You're wasting your money on the coach. Like it's just not going to work.
Mhm.
So stress mitigation is really important. And that comes from physical mitigation of stress with eating enough and not over exercising, but also making sure that you are doing the psychological piece of stress management. So things like meditation, journaling,
Self-care.
creating downtime, do nothing. Have some time in your day where you
Sit
do
there and literally stare at a wall.
literally stare at the wall, watch paint dry. No, get a coloring book, like a little, I loved that. That was so helpful.
I love
Uh,
that.
and then again, like the physical stress, like sleeping enough, like you need to be sleeping enough. If you're not, it really messes with that cortisol regulation. So, yeah, I think that was a good synopsis of that. So, thank you to the person that asked the question, and we hope that helps. And I'll reach out to you directly too, and me, you, and Kate can chit chat more. Um, there was another question. I love this. Advice on how to raise kids to have a healthy relationship with food. And when you think about it, we're all born as intuitive eaters. It's instinctual. But when we start, entering the school system and depending on the household we grew up in and the society, that we live in terms of socioeconomic status, but also cultural norms, all of that begins to impact how we view food and our relationship with food. And I think for a lot of children, the best role model in their life is going to be the parents and the family, because that's who they're going to see the most often and they're going to look up to initially. That might change as you get older, get into adolescence and your mom's not cool anymore. And then she's cool again after, a little bit.
We all go through that time
Yeah,
in our lives, but
absolutely.
no.
So it's like the parents leading by example really makes a big difference. And when I was in my internship at the inpatient level, which is the most intensive phase of eating disorder care, there was a 9-year-old girl and she had an issue with restrictions. She wasn't eating, so she was anorexic. And I know that in her household, her dad was a bodybuilder. And this is another big reason why it kind of forced me to really think about what I was pursuing in terms of bodybuilding career and like wanting to help eating disorder focused people and do that type of work. Um, she would see her dad doing certain things with food and XYZ. There was also some family trauma in there. Her parents were getting a divorce, so there's food as a sense of control for her. But she did say she would, avoid certain bad foods and she didn't want to eat those. She's 9.
Yeah.
She's 9 years old. So the home is probably the most impactful. And during your childhood is when you start to develop either a healthy or an unhealthy relationship with food and or your body. So for mom and dad to be leading by example, that might be eating intuitively. Maybe, hopefully, you're not using a food scale at home in front of the kiddos. If you are somebody that tracks macros and you have children, try to kind of hide that part of your tracking away from them if you can. It can be helpful to, be mindful of those types of things and how they can impact your children. I also think it's important as a parent, and I know a lot of parents do this to help reduce food waste, but try to not force your child to finish their plate, because that is a behavior that carries into adulthood that can be challenging and it can be very hard for people to learn how to actually listen to their appetite cues properly. So try to not encourage force feeding. Of course, there's a gentle amount of guidance you might have there, but try to approach it in a way that's positive. Always try to speak about food in a positive light.
Hmm.
And when it comes to your body, I just want to sprinkle this in there. And I know usually it's the women that are more likely to say, "Oh, I hate the way I look today," or I look XYZ today. If you say that in front of your kiddo, they're picking up on that. They're going to start having that same self-talk. And it's important to have positive self-talk in front of your children, even if you don't feel necessarily that way, truthfully, in front of the kiddos. If you can put on a fake smile for it, it would be helpful. Um, and hopefully you can do some deeper inner work where you can get to a place where you do feel more body neutral and you do feel truly positive that way. But be very mindful of the way that you speak about food. Try to not label foods as good or bad. Try to not call food junk food. I know we all do it. It's just a part of our society and it's like you don't even think about it, but those terminologies, they do make a significant impact on the development of the kiddo. So leading by example, be a good example, have a healthy relationship with food yourself. And you might not, and that might require you to do some deeper inner work, hire a dietitian, hire a therapist, do that work. And I have conversations a lot with clients where, they're going through that intuitive eating journey, and it's uncomfortable, and they do have kiddos, and that's kind of like a pain point I will kind of tug at sometimes. I'm like, I know this is really hard, but I want you to think about how much of a leader you are right now for your children, and this is going to transpire for them to have a healthy relationship with food because you're doing that work. And that can be a great source of motivation for a lot of parents that struggle with food. So that's kind of how I would recommend going about it. There are some book recommendations too. I wonder if I can put those in the show notes. I bet I probably can. So
Yeah.
I will copy and paste some great books for like children's nutrition when it comes to this kind of a thing in our show notes for you too. So you can take a look at that. Kate, is there anything you want to add with that?
Yeah, I wanted to go back to the finishing your plate. I know we talked about this. I don't know if it was a me and you conversation or we did this on the podcast, but do you remember us talking about like, oh, like I had this friend and it was a very cultural thing to finish your food and finish your meal, but I didn't grow up like that. So it was when I was done, I was done.
Yep.
I was the you get those parents where it's like, okay, take one more big alligator bite or something like that. Like a kid way of saying, okay, take one more bite. Like
Yeah.
you can have an ice cream if you take one more bite.
Mhm.
And when a child is feeling super full and they're not getting that cue yet, they don't know when to stop. Like you don't really learn when is a good time to stop eating. And then you end up growing up with this, oh, I need to take one more bite. Oh, I need to finish this meal. Like, oh, someone's I'm gonna feel guilty if I don't. And it can also play into a money thing. So if you go out to eat, you're like, I just paid for this meal. I need to eat all of this because I'm paying for it.
Yeah.
That's a whole another thing. So I definitely think relationship with food as a parent
Mhm.
is a really good thing to have a baseline of to show your child
Yeah.
what a healthy relationship with food is.
Mhm.
Another one is not forcing your child to finish the entire meal if they are not hungry. It's a different thing if they're kind of like, "Oh, I just want an ice cream. I want to save room for ice cream. I want to save room for ice cream." That's a
Mhm.
different thing. But if they're genuinely full and they're like, "I can't eat anymore," because I would sit back and take a deep breath, and that's almost like my mom knew. She was like, "Okay, you don't have to eat anymore. It's okay." And I
Mhm.
think as I grew up, she kind of learned because I she saw that I was going through all those things in high school. So it was more like, "Oh, okay, you don't have to finish it. It's okay." Like just giving those words of affirmation too
Yeah.
in in a setting like that, eating, it's like, "Okay, you don't have to finish it. It's okay." Because I always felt that need to be like, "I can't eat anymore, mom. I can't. I physically cannot eat anymore."
I also a couple of things came to mind as you were chatting. Um, a lot of parents, and they don't do this maliciously. None of this is done maliciously. And
Never.
I want to state that because I'm sure there might be parents listening like, oh my God, I might do that. And like, I don't want you to think we're coming at you for that. No, no, no. Like, this is just, it's a lack of knowledge. Like, it's child nutrition is a whole different beast. Pediatric nutrition is very interesting. And a lot of parents think they're doing their kid a lot of good when they're like forcing them to try a food or forcing them to eat a specific vegetable. Like this happens a lot with vegetables. And
Broccoli, finish your Brussels, like eat Brussels sprouts, all these things.
And it makes the kid resent that food. So you know what? I think what's really nice is giving your child options to try things. It is good to give them exposure, but don't force feed them. Say you give them carrots, peas, and corn. Maybe they leave the peas because it's green and it grosses them out. And be, did you try it? And if they're not ready to try it yet, that's okay. Because guess what? If a kiddo doesn't try broccoli when they're 5, when they're 15, 18, 20, they might feel like they're ready to try it. And in adulthood, your palate's different and they might love it and they can love it then. You don't
Right.
need to force them to try to love broccoli at 5 years old if they are really like, no. You could try to make it fun to like introduce them to it. Sometimes that even means like, it sounds funny, but one way to help kids with ARFID is to almost do like artistic projects with them. So you could do like with veggies, like you could make the broccoli like trees on like a piece of paper and just giving them exposure to the food. They don't even have to eat it. They could touch it, they could smell it. And I
Give
think
that
that's
exposure before you even like put it
force
into
it in their
having
mouth.
a different activity with it, just to
Yes.
get used to it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think if you can make food fun and playful, it can actually be a really positive experience.
Mhm.
Another thing I think people will end up doing is they're trying to sneak vegetables into the kids' diet without telling them that there's vegetables in there. And I know this is coming from a really good place. But one dietitian I had the opportunity to sit in with at this was at our basically our Massachusetts version of FENCI. So like it's like the Dietetics Association of Massachusetts. All the dietitians and interns go and they present new research. There's different speakers, you can go to different lectures, etc. So I was at a pediatric child one, and it was surrounding healthy relationship with food with kids. And she doesn't recommend sneaking in vegetables to the kids' diet without telling them,
Mhm.
because it is secretive and it can make it feel like the kiddo is betrayed by the parent, which can create a weird relationship. And then it's like, oh, you put spinach in my smoothie last time. Well, I'm never gonna have a smoothie again. Or they can begin to resent that about that food. And it's just it,
The trust between them becomes impaired.
yes, it's almost
And
like an ethical thing. And it sounds maybe really dramatic, but if someone was sneaking something into your food as an adult, you might be like, oh, that's kind of, why didn't you tell me? Like,
why? Yeah. Why wouldn't you tell me this?
so instead of, being secretive about it, I think open communication with your kid, like you would with an adult, is actually really important. Giving them some choice, giving them some freedom. I know that kids can be very picky, and if all they're willing to eat is chicken fingers and French fries, I know it's probably very frustrating as the parent trying to get them, nourishment. I say that's when you get the multivitamin gummies and you just do your best. They're eating, that's better than nothing, and try to slowly introduce these foods. And like I said, you could do it very playfully, do it with some artsy stuff. Maybe you have them, draw the vegetable. There are so many other ways you can get them to just even start thinking about those like nutrient dense foods that doesn't require you to like shove it in the kid's mouth and be like, please eat this, whether you want to or not.
Right.
So that's what my training has been on, this topic. I know some people listening might be like, that is so not realistic. And I don't have children, so I can't speak on it from
Right.
that kinds of experience.
Exactly.
But from what I did learn at the WIC, so I interned at WIC for like a year. I love WIC. WIC was so fun.
Yeah.
Um, when you're introducing foods to kiddos, like when they're really young, when they can start transitioning to solid foods, try to introduce vegetables first before fruits, because fruits are very sweet. So they're gonna like that
They're gonna
more.
want them. Yeah.
So if you do the vegetables first, it helps with the palate, and then they're more accustomed to having it, and then therefore it's more likely that they will be willing to eat those vegetables and not just the fruit. And that's okay. Most kids don't like a lot of vegetables, and that's okay. As you get older, your palate changes, you'll be able to explore that more. But that's kind of my perspective on it. So I hope that helps to the lovely person who asked that
I
question.
also want to add one more thing going into like, so sorry, just to
No,
add,
this is great.
but having as an adult, as a parent, having that expanded palate and introducing those foods so early is gonna help because my dad was eating swordfish, he was eating lobster, he was eating all these vegetables. Like we were making like all these very like not intricate things, but like
Yeah,
ingredients that I would not have by themselves.
sure.
At age 8, I was eating Brussels sprouts. I was eating and I was enjoying them. I was,
Hmm.
like, physically enjoying them. I had swordfish. I love sushi. I love all of these things, and it comes to a point where you're in that phase where you're like, "Oh, I'm a very picky eater. Like, I'm not gonna eat this because it grosses me out," all these things. But having that exposure so early is super, super helpful to get such a range of food in there,
Yeah.
and if that is not present in the household, there might have a little, like, one's going to I don't know how I'm trying to say this, but, like, it's going to affect the child with that kind of relationship with food later on.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
What you're exposed to at an early age makes a big difference,
Yeah.
in terms of the actual variety of food sources, the way that you communicate about food. It sticks with you for a very long time. And it's funny because it sounds like you weren't a very picky eater as a kid because of that exposure.
Ashley was, which was weird because I don't know, she must have like she didn't like it. And then now she loves sushi. It's the whole your palate like evolving as you grow older is so true. I hated tomatoes. I would refuse to eat tomatoes, and now I have tomatoes on every single sandwich.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was a very picky eater as a kid. I actually look back and I'm like, oh, I wonder if I had like and I might even still now as an adult. Like there are some things that I'm like, oh gosh, I'll never try just because the smell of it is so gross or the look of it is so gross. Like I wonder if I have a mild case of ARFID. I really do wonder that, like when I learned about what that eating disorder was. And for those that don't know what ARFID is, it's known as the picky eating disorder, but it's much more severe than just being a picky eater. So I want to make that very clear. We could do a whole episode on ARFID at some point. I think it needs more attention. Usually more neurodivergent people will end up with ARFID and it's more likely to have ARFID. But that said, I think for me as a kid, my mom and dad tried their best to like expose me to
Of
everything. And
course.
I,
Yeah.
okay, but I was very picky and I would like only eat chicken. I didn't want to eat this, or I would only eat, steak that like my dad would cook a certain way. And like if it was cooked by somebody else a different way, I was like, no, 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 I won't eat that. Very picky as a kid. But then as I grew up, into high school, I really started like expanding my palate and like eating more vegetables and like learning how to cook them in a way that like was delicious and I actually liked the way that they tasted. So I use myself as an example because as a kiddo, I was not eating like real vegetables, like a lot of them. I was very much so like I just didn't really eat veggies. I would maybe eat the fruits, but I was a big, snack kid and like chicken fingers and fry kid and mashed potatoes, that type of thing. But now as an adult, I love vegetables. I like every vegetable. Like I actually don't know a vegetable I don't like. So I'm using myself as an example there that if your kid is really being tough, like to feed, it will change. They will evolve. Get them a multivitamin, make sure they're getting in enough calories, make sure they're getting enough calcium and vitamin D so that they can grow and they'll be okay. So yeah.
I agree. I agree.
Amazing. Well, this was a fun one. This is going to be a little bit quicker because we got some things to do today. But thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you guys in the next one.